porn. A very, very bad thing. Almost as bad as this camera I have. A very naughty thing, makes you think about your life choices after you're done being a squirrel, getting a nut. After that, you think about what you did, like a parent sending their kid to timeout in that corner, Ignore this mess. Anyways, my introduction to porn. And in my experience, avoid it. If you can, when you have kids, if you have kids, make sure they do not come in contact with some of these people and some of the things on the internet. Hey, because it can all be bad. Once that kid goes down that path, that little rabbit hole of internet 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, while the parents' bedroom, all sleeping sound, thinking their kids over there sleeping too. Little does he know, he's watching FNAF porn, Fortnite porn. I don't know what they watch these days, but I'm pretty sure from what I heard, word on the block, But my introduction to porn came way too early. Way too early. It all started back when I was such a young, innocent kid, man. I don't even know how old I was. All I know is I had just went into 6th grade. I've heard stories, people having girlfriends. Never thought of that for myself. But I've heard stories, and I was never really attracted to that. I didn't really care for a girlfriend. I did like having companionship, but it didn't come in the form of a loving, type of relationship. I just wanted a friend, like many of us to this day still want. But besides the fact, I was a kid, and the way I got introduced to porn was in 6th grade. My young, innocent mind just traumatic. So, I was just finishing school that day. Like any other day, it was a normal day. I was finishing school. I believe in sectionals, which is where you stay after school with your band. Like, I play trumpet, so I stayed after school with trumpet people and the teacher to, practice music, get stuff down, make sure we're ready, all that, pitch pass, But while I was there, after we finished, I was waiting on my dearest mother, who, was working and still does work. Too much, I believe. But, she was coming in just a little late, like usual. I wasn't tripping. I was used to staying hours after school, because she was a busy, hard-working woman, and I respect her to this day for that. I do mess with her a lot, but in this matter, I'll cut her some slack. And she's a very, very hard worker. So, she was coming in late, like usual. I was waiting for her in the band hall, in the little room. I was waiting. I was like, it's gonna be a bit, so let me sit down. I sat down playing some Naruto game on my phone. It was some card game. I couldn't find it. I remember looking it up once, and I could not find it. Like, I don't know where it went. It's like lost media now. It was like a Naruto card game with like attack type. Anyway, I was playing that. And a little Clash Royale back in my day, before I went on a long hiatus. I'm back on it now, but, I was doing that, and I was looking up every now and then, to see if my mom was out there. If her white car was out there waiting for her son, And while I was just waiting, 2 guys just by the door looked over at me. Hey, aren't you so-and-so's brother? I looked up, looked to my right. I don't know these people. I don't know who they are. Never seen them in my life. Much less know anything about them. But I don't know what they thought was in their right mind, but here goes, Hey, aren't you so-and-so's brother? Yeah. Yeah, I am. Hey, come here for a bit. I just looked at him like, dang, these people finna steal my shoes. My beat up Vans I had, I used to wear Vans before they were popular. I used to get so much hate. I used to get hit with the, what are those, when I would wear Vans. I was rocking Vans back in the day, and I would get clowned on it. Now look at everybody rocking Vans. Anyways, forget that PTSD, that traumatic experience. Let's go to this one. So I walk over there to them, like, hey, what's up, Me think I'm finna get robbed, or, I don't got no lunch money. I'm on, like, reduced or free lunch, I don't remember, but I don't got no lunch money, They're like, aren't you so-and-so's brother? I was like, yeah. And I don't know what these two dudes were doing in their time, because they were there for a bit. I don't know how long they were doing it for, but these dudes, bro, have their phone in their hand, pick it up, turn it around, and show me. Look at this. And man, that is the day my innocence was gone. Because I in my mind, wait, hold up, before I even get to that. So they turn around their phone and like, look at this, so-and-so's little brother. They showed me lesbian corn on the cob, lesbian porn. To a girl eating a blonde woman out. To a young kid that had just got into 6th grade. I believe they were in 8th grade, about to go into high school. I don't even think, because I'm young for my class, so I don't know, I don't even know if I was in my teens, or like if I was 12, or barely hitting my teens. But they turn around their phone and show me a lesbian eating out another lesbian, or bi, whatever they were. We didn't have all that back then. And at that moment, my mind exploded, I was like, what the hell, back then I didn't cuss. I was like, what the heck? What is this? Like, dude, what the flip? Like, whatever that white boy said. Bro, tell me why my mom shows up literally right after they show me that. So they could have waited a couple seconds. My mom could have just, I wish she would have gotten, there a couple more seconds, not even a minute, a couple more seconds before they show me that. But nah, maybe I would have been innocent a little longer. Who knows? But that day, that faithful day, not very much faith in there, but that day, my innocence was robbed. And I went on a huge rabbit hole, huge spiral into porn. And, I thought girls had wieners too. I'm not gonna lie to y'all, gang. I thought women had wieners too, and I thought they were bigger than mine. Mind you, I was a kid, so I'm a grown up shower, but back in my day, I thought a woman was carrying around a sling of meat that she would throw on her back because it was that big, I thought she was walking around with like a third leg. Turns out they never had wieners. They never had peepees, Like I used to call them back then, peepees. They didn't have none. And I was out here like, what? Like, what the heck? So you telling me women and men, apart from face-wise, aren't the same? Wow. That blew my mind. I'm not gonna lie. So, I had a DSI back then, DSI XL. And if you know what that is. Unk status coming in, I don't care. I was rocking the DSI XL back in the day. and they had access to internet browser. It sucked, horrible, but it was internet browser, and that just pushed, pushed me further into exploring what this matter was, what these women were doing, what I was seeing. I needed explanations for that day, or for that moment. I needed to know what was going on, because literally after I just saw that, my mom was like, "Hey, Colin, time to go." And I walked in there. How was school? How was school? You got homework? No, I don't think so. You don't think so? What you mean you don't think so? I don't know. Like, she didn't know what was going on, obviously. She didn't know what was going on. But I knew. I knew that I had just discovered something. And I didn't know at the time how bad it was. But I discovered something. And I was going to get to the bottom of it, alright? I was going to find out what that was. And I was going to see what was up. What the hype was. Everything that comes after. Man, oh man, I wish I would have never discovered it that young. Because, I am not going to lie to y'all. So y'all don't feel lonely out here. I struggle with lust, alright? I'm not going to lie to y'all. Masturbating and all that. Bad for y'all guys. I'm not gonna lie, too much of a good thing is a bad thing. You don't want to get blue balls, but at the same time, you don't want to get having no balls, You don't want to be so drained that when you finish, dust comes out, just air comes out. You don't want that. You don't want erectile dysfunction at 20 years old. You don't want that. I'm not 20, by the way, so this is not about me. But, so y'all don't feel lonely, so y'all don't feel like y'all an outcast. This happens to a lot of people. So, I get home, my DSi's connected to this cheap internet. I'm not gonna say who I was, cause we don't need problems. I use them now. Now they got some good internet. I'm not gonna lie. But back in the day, what we had was no bueno, no bueno. So everybody was asleep in their rooms, Wait, but scratch that. I ain't even had internet at that time. I would just carry my DSi around. Because I would get dropped off at my aunt's early in the morning while my mom went to work. She would drop us off, me and my brother. And, it would be like a couple hours before school starts. I would wake up at 4, drop off at the aunt's, And then we were supposed to be sleeping. We wouldn't sleep. That's how I got into anime. But, that's a topic for another day. Anyways, scratch us having internet. That didn't come till later. I forgot. I was mixing up times. It's been a while. So, we get dropped off by my aunts, at 4. My mom goes to work. My brother is because we were just chilling in their living room. We were supposed to be sleeping. My brother was asleep. And, me being me, I hop on my DSi. I didn't know what to look up. I didn't know what to look at. So I just looked at girls. And boom. Girls popped up. Clicked images. They popped up. And little. It was taking forever to load because, it's a DSi. It's not top of the line PC material. But it was something. So it was loading. And it just popped the girls. And I was like, this isn't what I saw. I was like, how could I find what I saw? So, it took me a little longer. So I ended up looking girls with girls. I was just seeing girls hanging out, a girl friend group. And then I stumbled on a picture about, a girl and a girl kissing, And I saw some interesting choice of words in there. Interesting choice of words. And, I put those words, I put girls kissing girls together. That loaded up. And it just kept going from there. Girls kissing girls. And then it got to the point where I ended up looking girls without clothes. That's how innocent I was. I looked up girls without clothes, chat. Girls without clothes. And whoa. I saw girls in bikinis. And then I scrolled a little more, and then I saw some two interesting things in the middle area, you know. And then I got to the juicy part, between the legs. You know, I don't know what y'all, I don't know how some of y'all are, whether y'all are titty people or booty people, you know, whatever, feet people. You know, everybody got their thing. But then I saw, the forbidden sandwich, the cat that you never play with until you're older. You know what I mean? That I saw something, and then I found out what it was called. And mind you, it was bright and early in the morning. I was like, wow, I didn't even know girls had this, And I was even right now I'm like flabbergasted. Like I don't know what to say, cause I didn't even know this was a thing. I didn't know girls didn't have wieners. Again, I didn't know. So I found out what that is, but it's showing like just a girl by herself, and I'm like, but it was two girls. So I looked up two girls, and I found out those are called lesbians. And I was like, lesbians? Wow. I didn't even know that was a thing, I thought it was always man on girl, or you're single, never meant to mingle. That's what I thought, single Pringle. But girls on girls, that was a game changer. So, fast forward after school, fast forward a couple days with my DSi. Obviously, you can't run no videos if y'all didn't know. At least not the DSi XL I had. Not until the 3DS came out, where it was a little faster. But I was gifted an iPod Touch. My brother had an iPod. He found it, and since my brother found an iPod, I wanted an iPod. Everybody in my school already had some type of device, whether it was a DSi or But I was finally gifted an iPod, and I still have it to this day. It's in there. Yeah, in there. Yeah, Captain America protector on the back. All cracked. I took care of it so good. Dropped it once, splat, whole screen. Just destroyed, man. Literally one drop. I was changing in the locker room, slipped out of my pocket, boom, destroyed. Anyways, before that tragic ending of my iPod, I had it, and we had finally gotten Wi-Fi in my house. And I remember we were leaving, or getting ready to leave, and I was in the restroom, and I was in that moment intrigued a woman. Like, I wanted to see a woman at that time. And I still remember the exact video I watched too, to this day, to this detail. Like, and if y'all know, y'all know. I don't know what the video is. Somebody might find it one day. But I remember sitting on that toilet. My meat was hard. Sorry to get explicit, but we're talking about it. We gotta talk about it. And I looked up girls with girls, That's what I looked up. Girls with girls. And then I was looking through the videos, and I clicked the video. My very first video I ever clicked myself, and I saw on my iPod 4th generation or 3rd, I believe. I think it was the 4th one. It was two girls. Y'all gonna laugh at me at this, man. I didn't even make it to the actual part, alright? I didn't even make it to the actual part. So these two girls sitting on like a brownish couch or a black couch. It was one of those. It was one of those. I know most of this. And had my thing in my hand. I don't know what I was doing, but I ain't never felt nothing like that in my life. I didn't felt this good in my life. And these girls have a blue. Mind you, this was me in 6th grade. I still remember 6th grade. I still remember this. A blue bowl in their hand with popcorn, right? Sitting facing each other, on the same side of the couch, facing each other, feeding each other popcorn, getting it from the bowl, feeding popcorn to them, and from a blue bowl, a brunette, not even brunette, she like blackish hair. I don't know if that classifies as brunette. I think brunette's brown, and a blonde girl. So it was like, I don't know the proper term, ebony girl with a blonde white girl, and they're feeding each other popcorn. Their shirt slowly starts coming. It didn't get off all the way. I didn't make it that far. It gets to their shoulders or something like that. And boom! The gun was unleashed. The gun was shot. Emptied the whole magazine from them feeding each other popcorn. How crazy is that? From them feeding each other popcorn, I busted a nut. And little me, oh boy, if he didn't know the trouble he was gonna get in the future, all because of that. I busted my first nut to two girls, two lesbians or bi girls, I don't know what they were, feeding each other popcorn. And maybe I got some details wrong, but that's how I remember it. I busted a nut to that. And then, clean myself, wash my hands. And then I left the house because I was going somewhere. And the whole car ride, I was like, whoa, what was that? I don't know what came out. It was something. I thought I peed myself. I was like, damn, I'm kind of old for peeing myself, Little did I know I busted my first nut. And my first video was two lesbians, like I saw from that, from earlier, from those two dudes. I don't know what they're up to today. I don't even remember who they are. But, I'm not going to wish bad things upon you, but, man, I hope y'all got y'all karma for that. Y'all ruined my innocence. Y'all ruined it. And I'm not going to lie to y'all. I changed. But, that's a topic for maybe tomorrow, maybe another day. I'll get into more of that, how it affected me, But, yeah, that was my first introduction to porn. And that's how I started becoming lustful. Not proud of it. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. People gonna say you shouldn't be ashamed. Yes, you should. You should be ashamed of yourself if you're busting a nut to girls online. I'm guilty of it. And I know some of y'all are too. Okay? You should be ashamed of it. But that does not mean you cannot become a better person. You can always get help. A lot of us don't like talking about that. We feel ashamed, as we should. But, stopping it is the good thing. And, yeah, I've tried stopping. I've stopped a bit. There are moments I relapse. And, I'll get into that next time. But, oh, man. Y'all not gonna believe. Y'all not ready for that story. Like, a little horny me. Horny teenager me. Whew. Man, bruh. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know who I was, who I thought I was, or what I had become. Damn, bruh. Y'all not ready for that story yet. But anyways, yeah. I don't know where that porn video is, but that's what I busted my first nut to, guys. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. That was my first one. Didn't even make it to the actual part. Just didn't feeding each other popcorn. I think I made it to 3 popcorns in, and I was done. I was ready to go. But that's my introduction to porn. You know, just so y'all know how bad it is to get it exposed to you so young. Like, obviously, I wish I would have went longer without knowing what porn is, because porn is bad for you. I'm not gonna lie, y'all. We are, as I believe Kevin Gates said, you know, busting a nut over another man's success, which is kind of fruity when you think about it, and he's not wrong. But you know, hey, we're gonna get more into that later on. You know, in the next couple of days. I'm a little busy, got work coming up, but we're gonna get into it. And you know, if you want to hear more about this, you know, hit that like button, hit that like button, subscribe. But yeah, that's what it is, man. That's what it is. That's my introduction to porn. Man, y'all keep y'all kids safe. You know, y'all keep yourselves safe. And y'all try to stay away from that, man. Y'all try to stay away from that. But I'll catch y'all next time, man. And I hope y'all enjoyed this. You know, if you did, subscribe, bro. Because the next thing I'm finna talk about, bro, like how it affected me, whew, y'all not ready for that, man. Y'all not ready for that.